let's talk about some things that I absolutely hate about Zillow Leads, and yet I still have it as one of my main marketing pillars. Why? Hi, I'm Micah Olson. I am your YouTubing real estate coach. I make videos just like this for agents just like you to help you enrich your life and create wealth through real estate. So if you're into that, like and subscribe, follow me. I'll make a lot more videos with awesome topics and things to help you out in your business. The number one thing that drives me nuts with Zillow Leads is that I feel like the second you sign on, you've just put a leash around your neck and become an on-call salesperson. Anytime that Zillow has somebody who's ready to talk to an agent, they will warm transfer you a call, which is actually kind of great, except that means anytime they warm transfer you a call, they're like pulling on this leash, wanting you to answer right then, and you can very easily lose that work-life balance that we love so much about real estate. I mean, I don't know about you, but one of the prime reasons that I've been in real estate for so many years is I love the schedule and the lifestyle and the flexibility that I have. Some of that will go away when you start working with Zillow Leads. Now I'll have a few tips and things at the end of this video that can help with that, but that's a big thing for me and probably the main reason that every 3 or 4 months I think about dropping Zillow and moving on to other lead sources. The number 2 thing that I hate about Zillow Leads is how expensive they are. I mean, you'll be in most markets, you'll be paying anywhere from $200, $300, $400, $500, $800 per lead. That's mind-blowing when you think about that, especially if you've done any kind of social media marketing and things like that, which is also a pillar of my business. I mean, I can get buyer leads for $1 or $2 a lead through social media. I can get seller leads in my market for about $10 to $12 per lead. Zillow's expensive, and that means when you get a lead, you have to be stellar at your scripting and your customer service and figuring out their why and being able to help them close on a house. I mean, you've got to make this work if you just paid $400 for a lead. So that's the number 2 thing that I hate, is how expensive they are. Number 3 is this external pressure for hitting certain metrics. Now, I'm going to admit this, don't tell anyone. I have other videos about being accountable and how important that is, but I hate outside pressure pushing me towards certain goals. If I've bought into the goals, that's great, and certainly when you're working with Zillow Leads, you want to be effective, you want to close sales, you want to set appointments, but all of a sudden you've got this third party that's like, are you getting 5-star reviews? Are you closing sales? Are you getting appointments? And I know those are all things that I want to be doing, but it really drives me nuts, this kind of like vice that you're in with Zillow, where if you can do good on these, we'll send you an extra lead, you know, kind of this carrot dangling in front of you. So I don't love that. It bugs me. It is important to have metrics and to hit them. So, you know, it's kind of 50-50, except I kind of hate it still. The next thing about Zillow Leads is they are very bottom of funnel. You know, when you hear me talking about leads and lead gen systems, we have top of funnel, which is people that are just barely starting to kick the tires. You know, I'm going to graduate from college in 2 years and I might want to buy a house then. That's top of funnel. Bottom of funnel is I'm pre-approved, I'm looking at houses, I want to go walk through this house, I want to close on a house in the next 3 months. And you would think that's a good thing, and it is. I mean, honestly, that kind of ties in. There's only one reason that I do like Zillow. I'll tell you that in just a minute, but that's kind of what you want, right? Is bottom of funnel leads, but sometimes Zillow is so bottom of funnel that you'll get people that are kind of using you just a little bit. You know, their agent is out of town and they want to see this property, so they click, you know, go see the property on Zillow, and they'll tell you like, oh, I thought you were the listing agent, so it wouldn't matter. But sometimes people that are so bottom of funnel don't respect your time, which actually is it's the last like big thing that I hate about Zillow Leads is the commodity effect. I mean, these people aren't necessarily loyal to you as an agent. They don't know you. They've probably never heard of you. Occasionally I'll have one of my past clients that requests to have me show them a property through Zillow, but that's very rare. So these guys don't know who you are. They're out there using Zillow. They don't probably care much about agents. And so sometimes you'll have them treat you like Are you going to show me the house or not? Like, if you're not, I'll go get this other person. Like, and so you really have to be good at establishing value and explaining what your value proposition is. Now, the one thing that I actually like about Zillow Leads, it's kind of what I talked about that I hate, is their bottom of funnel. I mean, you can find somebody that you get a connected call, you talk to them, you go out and show a property 2 days later, you write an offer the day after that, and you're closing in 30 days. I mean, that happens on Zillow. That's not like this once in a lifetime thing like it is with social media. And so that's good, and it keeps good leads coming into your database. And if you can get around the other cons, the price and the scripting you need to learn and getting your systems in order, like, it can be a good lead source, especially in a tough market. You know, we've had ups and downs. We've had markets where I absolutely would not be advertising in Zillow when rates were at 2.5% and every property in my area was getting 10 or 15 offers. Like, I don't want to work with buyers in that scenario. It's hard. And so that's not a time for Zillow advertising, in my opinion. But times where rates are high and prices are high and there's a lot of tire kickers and your sphere of influence and past clients have kind of slowed down on what they're doing in real estate, and you need to feed your business and feed your team that you're working with, Zillow can have a place if you're good at understanding the metrics. And I'm going to talk about that in some of the tips here just real quickly. But Zillow has a place, and there are definitely things that I hate about it. So let's talk about the metrics. Let's go into the first 2 or 3 tips that I have for working with Zillow. And these first 3 things, they're all gonna be about numbers. So number 1, when you're doing your math, Zillow's gonna talk about connected leads and additional leads. Ignore the additional leads as far as your numbers are concerned. Connected leads are the ones where they've said, I wanna see this property, connect me with an agent. Zillow calls them up and says, we're connecting you with an agent, and then you're on the phone with them. Like, those are great leads. The additional leads, in my opinion, they're pretty much social media leads. So they come from a couple places. Usually Zillow has talked to them and they've said, I don't want to talk to an agent right now. And they'll even tell you that when they send you the lead. Bob doesn't want to talk to an agent right now, but he asked about 1234 Main Street in your city. And so you have to be careful. You have to shift your mind and treat them more like you would a social media lead, you know, someone who's a tire kicker, more than you would work with a normal Zillow lead where you're like, what time do you want to go and see the property? So that's the first thing. Don't use those numbers in your calculations because they're not the same as the connected leads. All you care about when you're running numbers is connected leads. Which brings us to the second thing that you're going to look at. Zillow says for every zip code, the average home sales price is X, you know, whatever it is. 300,000, 500,000, 800,000. And then they run all of their numbers off of that, and they say, okay, if you're getting 6 leads every month, and then the average property sells for 500,000, and you're getting 2.5% commission, and blah, 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 and they run their numbers on that. I don't like to use the Zillow numbers. Now, I know in a lot of markets, they're very good. Most markets in the United States and across the world are what we call disclosure markets, where the sales price of homes are actually publicly disclosed. My state is not, so Zillow is a little bit wishy-washy with values and things in my market. But outside of that, even if you're in a market where Zillow is pretty good about figuring out markets, you want to look for that needle in the haystack. You want to find a zip code that breaks the Zillow system, so to speak. So I'm looking typically for zip codes that are going to outperform what Zillow expects. And I find that by finding areas where the median price that Zillow expects is actually lower than the median price that I expect. Often that comes because of new home developments. A lot of times builders aren't reporting sales prices to Zillow or publicly, depending on your state. And so there can be undervalued, or markets where there's a lot of little houses or old houses, but then there's also this golf course community where so your median is pulled down, but you can be getting higher value leads that you can become really good at working with. So analyze the market. If Zillow says the median price is 500, see if you can find zip codes that you can ask Zillow about, where you know there might be a mismatch in values. And so then the third tip, numbers wise, is you're doing your math, is to not use the Zillow estimated closings. They're gonna tell you, oh, in this zip code, the top agent is closing at 15.7%. Can you believe that? And I think you're better than the top agent. Don't use those numbers. I would say just when you're running the math, figure a 5% close rate, which is actually a lot higher than social media leads. I think you can do better than 5%. I'm usually a little over 10%. But you've got to have your scripts down. You've got to be knowing how to set appointments and how to help these buyers stick with you, and then hopefully double siding some of the transactions too, where you're selling their house for them. And so I would say for the math, calculate 5%, and it's pretty easy to do the math. You're taking whatever your average price is, say 500,000, and what your average commission is, which let's say 3%. So your commission would be $15,000. And then you subtract what your brokerage would hold back from that, depending on the brokerage. I'm with 100% brokerage, so I think that's the only way anybody should go. Ask me questions about that if you're wondering, but you calculate how much you're gonna make per closing on average in that zip code. And then you look at the number of leads you're getting, and let's say you're paying enough that in a 6-month period, you're getting 30 leads. And if you're saying 5%, that means you'll close 1.5 deals in 6 months. And you know that those deals are worth, say, $15,000, so that, you know, you derive your math and you're $22,000 in commissions. Then you look at what am I paying per lead. You know, if you're $400 per lead and you're getting 30 leads, that's $12,000 you paid, and you subtract that from what you've made. It's pretty easy math. Don't let Zillow do it for you. Put your own numbers in and figure that out. Okay, let's get on to the next tips. First, I'm gonna give you just a little one, and this applies to everything in real estate. Don't let your work-life balance get messed up. Zillow, more than any other lead source, has the likelihood of pulling you out of skew on your work-life balance because of how the calls work. So understand, if Zillow says you're gonna get 5 connection calls a month, or approximately, and then your app goes off and says, hey, this person from Zillow wants to connect, you can decline that and you'll still get 5. As long as you're answering about 60% of the connection calls, you should hit your targets for the month. You can even go below that. I've had months, especially like, between December 20th and January 5th, I might not be answering as many calls, and I've actually dropped as low as about 20% answer rate, and I've still gotten the leads that I need. But just understand, you can reject calls, and most of these people that you're gonna be talking to want to see a property that day or the next day. And we're gonna talk about how to push that off just a little bit. I don't do same day showings without the lead feeling like you're not servicing them. But if you know today and tomorrow I'm not gonna show a home, don't take that Zillow call, because you're gonna tell them, no, we can't go see it today or tomorrow. Hopefully your scripting is better than that. But and then when Zillow calls them, they might say, oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna work with this guy, he's not very available or whatever. So don't let it pull your work-life balance. Don't be afraid to reject it if you don't have the time for it. Okay, let's get into some scripting and some goals of a Zillow lead. I thought about doing this as a separate video, and I probably still will someday, but if you're considering, should I work with Zillow, should I start Zillow advertising, you need to know how to make it work effectively. So the number one thing to do is always set an appointment on that first call. If they say, I want to see this property tomorrow at 5, say, great, we've got an appointment for tomorrow at 5. We're going to do that. Plan on it. I'll send you a calendar invite. Now, just in case the sellers or someone can't make that work, are there some other days and times so that I can just get it booked when I'm working on getting it booked? Even if I know I'm not available, I'll take that appointment. And I'll say, great, tomorrow at 5. And that's why I say, just in case the sellers or someone else can't make that happen. And then I just book one of their alternate times. But always set that appointment. Zillow's gonna rate you, and you can get a little badge that says Best of Zillow if you're in the top 20% of agents in your area. And that's a good thing because they send you extra leads. But in order to do that, one of the metrics that they look at is how often from connected calls are you booking an appointment. And my number is 100%, always. I mean, they call me every 3 months or so to review marketing and things like that. And they always say, hey, do you know what your appointment rate is? I'm like, 100%. I book them on every call. It always happens. I think their target is 80%. But make that happen. The second thing that you want, Zillow's gonna, anytime you have a connection call, Zillow's gonna reach out to that client, sometimes automated, sometimes with a call, and they're gonna ask them on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, how good was Micah's service? And you want them to say 5 stars, because the higher you get with that, you get extra leads, which can really help the numbers to work out well. And so I actually prep people for that. And I say, I always offer 5-star service to everybody that I work with. I want to connect with you. I want to understand what you need. I want to help you enrich your life and build wealth through real estate. Is there anything else that I can do to make this a 5-star experience for you? And now when Zillow reaches out to them like a day later or 2 days later, like what are they gonna say? Nah, he was a 1-star, that guy, he was awful. You know, they've already been preconditioned, like this guy did 5-star service. And so that will really, really help your metrics. Now for some tips on how to really dig in and become their agent. I mean, you want them after this first call, you want them to think of you as their agent. And it starts with understanding their why. Now I've got a whole video called Foundations of a Conversation that you should probably check out. And this applies to every lead, not just Zillow leads, but I've got 2 questions that I ask specifically for Zillow leads. And I try to adapt them for other leads as well. But the first one is, what stood out about this property? What drew you to this property? And I'll listen to what they say, because that's gonna tell you a little bit about their why. It's gonna give you the surface. You're like, oh, it doesn't have any stairs. Okay, that's good to know. Why is that important to you? Well, my wife had just had hip surgery and can't do the stairs anymore, or whatever. Or, you know, maybe they'll say, oh, the yard is fenced. We really want a fenced yard. Oh, why is that important? I have a client that we're looking for a house that literally somebody came and stole their dog and was trying to sell it on a local classified ad. It took them 2 months. I was helping them try to find their dog and things. They came after that and they said, we need a house that has a fenced yard. Like this is foundational to understand what their why is and to help them find that. The second thing that I ask, and there's like a hidden gold mine built into this question, but the second thing that I ask is, what is it about your current home that isn't working for you? Very similar answer. You'll get a very similar answer to the first question of what drew you to this particular home. You know, what in your current home isn't working for you? Well, the fence, the stairs, blah, 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 whatever. But what this does is it lets you go a little bit deeper in. You'll get some answers that they haven't shared yet, because that's just a great question. People like to talk about what's going on in their lives. But then you can also kind of start to determine, do they own their own home? Is there a home to sell here? I mean, in my market, anywhere between 30 to 40% of people that I'm talking to own another home. And if I'm not, you know, figuring that out and helping them sell their house, for every time I help them buy a house, I'm missing out on a huge part of the market. And so then after you've talked to them, you know, what isn't working in your current home, it's a very easy question to say, do you need to sell your house before you buy a new one, or have you thought about that? And they'll say, yes, we do, no, we don't, we're gonna keep it rented, or we're renting right now, and you can figure that out. Just as a side note, this has nothing to do with Zillow, but any buyer that I talk to, I try to figure out what city they're living in right now. I try to figure out if they own a home. And then I have an assistant that goes in and pulls up public records for that city, for their name, and sees if we can find a property that they own. And then we set up, I use a site called HomeBot that's available. I think it's available in Canada now, but available that kind of tracks their home value and helps them out with that. I set that up and have some home ownership stuff running for them as well. So now we understand their why. The next thing that we have to do, and again, this is with any client, this isn't just Zillow, is we've got to find out what their roadblocks are. What's gonna stop them from buying a house? Is there another person that they have to get approval from? Is it a first-time home buyer who's gonna have a co-signer and their parents have to approve the house? I just had somebody that we closed the house on last week that got a $15,000 gift from grandma. I mean, geez, that's awesome. I wish I would get a $15,000 gift from grandma. So like, what is it? I have some people that we were starting to talk about houses, and we found out that they're relocating to my area but didn't have jobs here yet. They need to find a job. Like, so what's the roadblock? But you've got to be so careful. You need to open doors for people and have them feel like this person is opening doors for me to go in and get my property. You can't like give them a roadblock and, oh, you've got to be approved before I show you a house. So how do we discover their roadblocks without closing doors, right? And so this question is just phenomenal. I basically say, picture this. We've walked through this house, it checks all the boxes. You can see yourself living here. In your mind, what would be the next steps to help you feel comfortable buying this house? And then listen to what they say. They're going to give you roadblocks. Oh, well, I'd have to talk to my agent. Like, wait a minute, I'm your agent. Or I guess I'd have to see if I can get a loan. Or, and then from there, well, sometimes they'll say nothing, like I'm ready to go. I'll still use this same script if they don't have anything. But most people will have a few, like I need to get my ducks in a row. And I basically say, that's great. That sounds like there's a few things that we should get working on before we go and see this house tomorrow at 10. I would like to set up a face-to-face meeting with you where we can go over a couple of things. Get all of these ducks in a row and get things started and make sure you're on track is one thing. But I also really want to connect with you and understand, what lifestyle are you looking for? What are we trying to accomplish with this home purchase? What do you really love in a home? What do you not want? I want to just really mesh well with what you want. The second thing I want to do is talk about the market. It's a very complex market. And then after you say it's a very complex market, you're basically filling in the blanks with what's complex. Right now I'm saying interest rates are high, values have gone up. I want to talk to you about the systems that we've put in place to get you a lower interest rate and a great deal on a house. Back in the day when interest rates were at 2.5% and every property was getting 15 offers on it, the market thing I talked to them about is, I want to talk to you about a system we have in place that puts you ahead of every other buyer that's going to be offering on the property that you want. So you fill that in with the market updates, and then I say, does that sound good? What I'd like to do is meet about a half an hour before we go and see this property. Here's where my office is at. And then if they give me a little bit of pushback, I just say, it's really important that we connect on this, because I'm going to be your biggest support in this entire process, helping you find the house and helping you get closed on it. And I'll tentatively throw out, like, what if we, instead of that 10 o'clock time, you said also possibly at 6 you could make it work. Could you meet at 5:30 and then go see it at 6? And I'll see if they could go. If they're just not having the time for that, then I will go to a Zoom call. Okay, let's stick with the 10 o'clock appointment. I'm gonna see if I can make that happen. Let's hop on a Zoom call, 45 minutes before that. We'll talk for a half an hour and then we'll both leave and drive and meet at the property. But I get that face-to-face. That's so important, and it's a professional way to do business. I think sometimes agents, we get this feeling like, oh, I gotta sell them on this appointment. But any other professional meets face-to-face. Attorneys, doctors, like, you're not gonna, that's how professionals do business. Don't be shy about that. Get that appointment, because 80% of people that you go face-to-face with, if they end up buying a property, are gonna work with you. That's nationwide average. Then what I say, just right off the back of that, so okay, great, we're gonna have this meeting at 9:30 and then go to see the property. Then I say, and what I'd like to do is set up what I call an exploratory tour. At the same time as we're going to see this property, I'd like to hand pick a few other properties that are similar for you to go and walk through. And there's no stress, no obligation. This is just to look and figure out what you like, what you love, what you hate. And it's a really fun way to start to build your understanding of what you want in a property. Does that sound good? And they say yes. I don't think I've ever, well, I think I've had a few people at times, they're like, oh, I'm not gonna have a lot of time because I gotta get back to a work meeting or whatever. And if that's the case, you can set up the exploratory tour for later. But what that helps you do, you don't wanna be the one door person, right? I wanna see this property, okay, we walk through, oh, I hated it, and they're gone. Now they wanna see this property over here and they're going with another agent. You have to show them more than one property to get it in their minds that you are not just the person for this one property or this one area. And that's how you do that. And that's vital. If you do these things and you get good at your scripting, you can really make Zillow work. As long as you're looking at the numbers and you're not overpaying and you follow these scripts. And I've got a lot of other videos about scripts and things that you can use. And if you want to have a consultation, just hit me up. I've got my calendar link down in the bottom, or leave a comment on this and I'll answer it. But you can make Zillow work. But I really do want you to consider those things that I hate. I mean, it sounds a little bit two-sided because I personally am doing Zillow, but I personally hate a lot of things about Zillow. But you just got to figure out how to make them work for you. And I think you can do it. Good luck.